Hey, everybody. Welcome to 2025 and your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. By the way, our 5th year anniversary across its various iterations. And what an amazing way to kick off this year than to look ahead to 2025 with our month sponsor, Carahsoft. And we've got Lacey Wean with us again. Thank you so much, Lacey, for sponsoring this month and for being on the show again.
Yes, thanks for having me. Excited to be here again.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a great year. And for those that don't know Lacey, she's been on the show before, obviously. We'll drop some of those links. She was actually on our Full Tilt Tech Industry Leadership Talks podcast in the past as well. And Carahsoft has been a great friend to the show. So without further ado, let's kind of jump into this a little bit, Lacey. And for those that don't know you, can you tell them just a little bit about your background? Like, first of all, like what your very, very long title at Carahsoft is?
Yes, of course. Yes. So great to be here as always. So um, I am one of the sales directors in the company here at Carahsoft, and I oversee a number of our technology verticals in the company. So really what that means is we develop these vertical focused solutions and business units that are focused on specific technology needs for the government. So a couple of those fall under my team. One of those being geospatial. So I've been with the company for almost 13 years. I've been part of the geospatial industry and leading our geospatial business since starting at the company. So that's kind of my baby and my bread and butter. And then over the last few years, we've spun off a couple of additional business units from that. One of those being our autonomy and robotics business and our drone business, which we'll talk a lot about today. We also have a new vertical around space technology. And then in addition to that, I also lead our law enforcement and public safety technology team and our Oracle business as well. So lots of fun things. And again, there's a number of emerging technology companies that fit within those business units again, and along with large companies that most of you have probably heard of as well. So yeah, a wide variety of things that my team focuses on, but it's always unique to me and interesting because I feel like when you really dive into it, like they all tie together in some way and work towards the same or similar missions.
Well, they absolutely do. In fact, everybody out there, Lacey and I are at Edge in Las Vegas. It's the 20th year anniversary of Edge, what was formerly known as CES Government. And so we're actually in a hotel at the Palms, which is why we both have the eyeball behind us right now. But, and by the way, everybody, this Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, we'll be streaming a video from the full crew broadcast, basically event broadcast, combining Edge and CES, and there'll be an Edge segment. So stay tuned for more from Lacey and some other folks from Edge. But Lacey, let's take a second and talk just for a second about how Carahsoft has grown over the years. And then I want to laser in on 2024 before we segment into the primary topic of 2025. So let's talk kind of historically in this growth over those years.
Yeah, of course. So it's always really exciting and incredible, I think, to talk about the company's growth. And just like Edge this year, it was Carahsoft's 20th anniversary as well in 2024. So we started in 2004. Our headquarters still remains in Reston, Virginia, as our primary office. If you haven't been there, I would invite any of you to come visit us if you're in the Northern Virginia area. We've got an incredible space where we frequently host events and trainings and meetings and lots of just awesome event spaces. The majority of the company is based out of our Reston office. For those who are local, but especially when it comes to the growth, again, it's really exciting to talk about because again, I've been with the company for 13 of those last almost 21 years now, and even just seeing the way that the business has grown, not only just revenue wise, which it certainly has. We were excited to cross 19 billion for 2024, which again,
Wow.
incredible revenue growth for us. I think the year that I first started there was the year, or the year after was when we hit our first billion. But it's incredible. I mean, again, seeing, going from a smaller office space with, a couple hundred employees to now having a couple thousand employees. you obviously see the growth by the numbers. But I think looking at just the way the business has evolved with, especially these technology verticals, again, I mentioned it, but it's something we started in the company, shortly after the company's inception. But those technology verticals, again, have grown and evolved. Like drones, for example, was probably not even on anyone's mind, or at least not that much 13 years ago. So to be able to, and space is now, especially out here at Edge, we heard a lot about space this week, and what that looks like for the future. And I think that's one of the incredible things to see with the company is just how we continue to innovate as the technology companies continue to innovate. And we're here to help support them and enable them and support our government customers to get the technology they need for their requirements in their hands. And then by developing these very focused businesses, again, it allows us to really hone in and gain some expertise in those certain technology areas so that we can best serve our customers and all of our partners as well. So again, I think one of the biggest things is always just the innovation, and we're always bringing on new partners. We're always looking for new technologies. We're always trying to find, hey, what's the next cutting edge thing, and how do we again continue to grow and evolve each of these individual business units as the technology evolves too.
Well, and not only the technology, but the policy, right? So we had popped up there for a second, the Skydio drone. I know Skydio is one of your many, kind of collaborators and partners. We had Black Swift Technologies and Dr. Jack Elston here at Edge this week, featuring their SO drone that they do with, NOAA and dropping into hurricanes and whatnot. So many different things, but, Craig, your boss, Lacey, as you know, kicked off one of the keynotes here at Edge and really talked about how technology keeps rapidly changing, but also the growing government need for the commercial sector to continue innovating to answer the call for the technology that the government needs. And so this idea of technology by policy is something I think that's really important, because we're seeing, laws and policies affect what the government can and cannot do or use in terms of technology. So let's talk a little bit about that. 2024 was one of those years with lots of shifts in how federal agencies handle their innovation. And you guys saw a huge evolution in AI and cloud solutions in government. Tell us a little bit about, how technology has been affected by policy across the board.
Yeah. So like you said, Dawn, tons of change in that technology policy. And I want to, explain a little bit about what that is too, is, one of the things our company does so well and that we're really focused on helping our partners with is understanding, hey, what is that policy? How is it changing, and how does it impact the government's needs, so that, again, we can ultimately, sell them the technology they need and find the solutions that are a right fit for them. And again, as we've all seen, it's changed over the last year, the last couple of years. There's going to be additional changes along with the new administration as well. But I think, especially when it comes to, like you mentioned, AI and cloud, those are always, they're hot topics. They have been for quite a while. And it's been really interesting to see just how that's evolved from, kind of AI and cloud as a concept or kind of an entryway of, okay, we're getting into this, to now AI and cloud are everywhere. And Dawn, I know you've seen this week too, even at the Edge on the agenda. I'm like, most of these sessions have AI integrated into it, but there's nothing just on, hey, it's just AI. It's always AI and something else, because AI is everywhere. It's ingrained in, every part of the mission, every part of the job. And it's becoming a piece of, kind of a standard essential piece of, just the day-to-day mission and every piece of technology that the government's using. So I think, we're going to see, certainly those conversations around AI are going to continue. It's going to become more comfortable for everyone, more familiar, and just, again, become a fully integrated piece and of everything we're doing. It's already everywhere.
Well, it is. I mean, and even CES, right, across town here. It's just, I've received so many notices about AI and this, AI and that, AI infused whatever. And, when you think about the government and the technology policy, they're saying we're using AI, we're going to use it. What I find really interesting is that at the same time, there's not a lot of guidance or policies within the government on this. And that's been a big topic of discussion. Should there be laws? Should there be regulations? And so more to follow. I think 2025 is going to be a super interesting year. And that's really a great segue, Lacey, to talk about 2025 and this look ahead. Lots of legislative updates, I think, on the horizon here, especially that could impact autonomous systems and the robotics sector, with regards to the federal government. And probably, we see this all the time, the state, local, tribal, territorial governments sometimes follow suit, right? SLTT. So let's first talk about the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2025. I'm pretty sure there's a huge underscore for uncrewed systems, UXS, not just drones, but uncrewed systems across the board, multi-domain. Tell us a little bit about what you believe we should be expecting to see as a result of that.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. There is, a big increase in some of the things that you'll see in the NDAA around the uncrewed systems, robotics, and all overall autonomous technologies and how those play a role specifically in national defense. But again, like you said, Dawn, some of those things also then translate into, from the Defense Department into the federal civilian space, state, local, tribal. But I think a couple of the key things to note in the NDAA and what you're going to see there, there's certainly, increased funding, which is exciting for all of us. So these enhanced budget programs, such as, things coming out of DIU, are really focused on just autonomy engineering for, the next generation combat vehicles. Lots of things around just the integration of autonomous technology. So there are efforts on transitioning hybrid and electric vehicle takeoff and landing aircraft and autonomy, technologies into military service and military requirements. Huge increases around supply chain security. So I know that's, not a new topic for us, but
yeah, it's almost like finally, right? Like
exactly, yes. Yeah, so we'll see more of that in there too, with just the development of the supply chain risk framework to boost domestic manufacturing capabilities for critical components in these uncrewed systems, and just understanding, hey, what is the supply chain? Where are these pieces coming from? How are we getting them? How are we acquiring them? And how do they make up, the bigger picture? And then we'll probably talk about this more later too, but a lot around counter UAS. Again, I think that's going to be there. As we all know, there's a lot of challenges around, challenges and discussions around counter UAS now. So I think we're also going to see some initiatives around addressing those types of threats and again, additional options available.
Yeah, we kind of ended the year with this hysteria around these New Jersey air quotes drone sightings. Yeah, I had my 5 minutes of fame on Fox News about that.
Yes.
But look, if it spurs some good around counter UAS, and when I think about counter UAS, Lacey, I think airspace awareness and the importance of giving our SLTT brothers and sisters out there in blue, mostly, our public safety folks, that authority to detect and track and maybe in some cases be able to mitigate, then okay, great. That would be really huge. You mentioned, Lacey, AI, and what, if there was one technology that was like the standout tech in 2024, I think we both agree it was AI. And we know this is going to continue going forward into 2025. AI is infused in robots, in drones across the board. I know the House had an AI task force and made a number of recommendations with regards to AI that's relevant to this drone industry and so many other industries. Can you walk us through a little bit with regards to those that task force report and some of the key policy recommendations that they're making around AI?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the House does have an AI task force, and they've released a bipartisan report advocating for sector-specific regulations and an incremental approach to AI policy. So a couple of those recommendations that you'll see include really some sector-specific regulations. So tailoring those AI regulations to specific industries to address these types of unique challenges and risks that they're facing. Adopting, a step-by-step approach to AI legislation, which is going to allow for the adaptability, as the technology evolves. And then a big emphasis too, just on ethical AI. So ensuring that these AI systems are developed and deployed ethically with a focus on fairness, accountability, transparency, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, and like we just said, oftentimes the state level will mimic what we're seeing at the federal level, and so that's, the federal Congress. What are you saying, in terms of state level AI initiatives, legislation or otherwise?
Yeah, so the states are definitely, mimicking some of what federal is doing, or kind of following the similar approach as what they're doing, because again, these policies are so critical, and they're so important at both the federal level and the state level. So state governments, right now there's over, I think, 150 bills related to the government's use of AI that are being considered in 2024.
Wow.
So at the state level, yeah, I know, it was like a lot. It's crazy. Some of these emerging trends at the state level, include just the AI inventories and impact assessments. So mandating these state agencies to maintain inventories of their AI systems and conduct impact assessments to evaluate potential risks and, what those potential benefits are as well. Establishing, oversight mechanisms and guiding principles to ensure that responsible AI, is used within state agencies. And then a number of pilot projects as well. So launching these focused pilot programs to explore AI applications in public services, and just aiming to overall enhance the efficiency and decision making at the state level.
Yeah, wow, 150. And by the way, everybody, a really great website out there if you're interested in what's happening at the state level for any topic in terms of legislative efforts. The NSCL, the National State Legislative Congress, has a great website. So check that out if you want to get the latest on any particular topic to see what's out there. But we talked about the NDAA. We talked about just kind of generic state legislation that's out there. Let's talk about some federal executive actions aside from the legal side, more on that policy side. Like I believe OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, issued some federal guidance. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that can trickle down into the robotics and autonomy industry.
Yeah, so OMB, yes, they have released some guidance to federal agencies emphasizing a couple of things. So one just being that AI governance and the risk management. So implementing robust governance structures and risk management practices for AI technologies. To just the interagency collaboration. So promoting this coordination among, the various agencies to ensure that we really have a unified approach to AI across the federal government. And then third being, just public communication. So really enhancing that transparency with the public regarding AI and applications and the impacts that they have as well. So again, I think all of these things, are super important. And this guidance is really focused on, ensuring that these AI technologies that are acquired are used responsibly within the agencies.
Well, and also acquired responsibly, right? So that's a big part of what you do at Carahsoft, is help facilitate some of these contracts between private industry and the federal government, as well as SLTT. So this is going to impact procurement as well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it will, to be honest. And again, I'm thinking that's going to be a positive impact. And like you said, we have a big focus on these government contract vehicles, and that's one of our top priorities is making it easy and effective for the government to buy the technology they need. So whether they're using on the federal side, a GSA schedule or NASA SOUP or an ITES contract, or one of the other many contracts out there, and again, tons on the state side and local government as well, like NASPO and Omnia, and again a few others. We've also got some education focused contracts, and a number of things that we already have in place that again help the government procure the technology they get more effectively, more efficiently. We've got, negotiated terms in place on those. They get preferred pricing. And again, just making it an overall easy process so that the government knows, hey, they're getting the best value, they're getting the best price, they're getting top quality technologies from these best of breed vendors. And again, just making it as, easy and seamless as possible for them to procure the things that they need.
No, excellent, Lacey. And, as you look ahead to 2025, there's a lot of goodness on the horizon in terms of, autonomous and robotic systems, as you mentioned, space, lots of activities, I think, going to be happening across the board. But with that comes some challenges and risks, what you say. And let's just kind of walk through some of them. And I know that these challenges span everything from the technological challenges to some ethical, of course, regulatory, some operational challenges. So let's break those down, and let's first talk a little bit about the regulatory uncertainty and fragmentation that we're still seeing as we jump into 2025 together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the regulatory, legislation, it's certainly evolving. Like we talked about, there are a number of ongoing efforts, both at the federal level and the state levels, which is going to make some impacts to some of these technology companies where they may face difficulties in adapting to these various requirements, or it could create some compliance challenges for them as well. But I think, again, it's something that we've started to see already, and I think we're going to continue to see that in 2025. So, if, as a technology provider, just having that expectation that some of these regulatory things may change, and again, the hope is that they will continue to evolve and evolve in a positive way. But as we kind of work through that in the new year, some of this may bring some complications and challenges that we may be unfamiliar with today.
Well, and on a global scale, of course, right? As standards continue to evolve, not just in our own country, but any company operating on a global scale has to look at, are our standards, our regulations, are they aligned or misaligned with that, for example, in the EU or otherwise? So this isn't just a localized issue. This is a global issue. Lacey, when I was at the GUTMA, the Global UTM Association's Harmonized Skies event, that was something they were raising, when it comes to UAS traffic management, was kind of the disconnect in the global approaches to UTM, and how that really makes it difficult for companies that want to operate in more than one country. So I think we're going to continue to see that, and hopefully we'll also, though, continue to see maybe a convergence as maybe one company starts doing things in a great way that other folks start kind of falling into line with. So more to follow there. But, when you think about robots, when you think about drones, any autonomous vehicles, at the end of the day, they're like flying, walking, swimming computers. And let's talk a little bit about the security risks that are on the horizon.
Yeah. So security and cyber risks are still going to be, they're going to be a top priority for 2025. Again, as we've seen the last couple of years, I think that's continuing to become even more and more of a priority as we focus on just the security and the cyber risks. But again, you're right. All of these autonomous systems, specifically these ones in the defense and critical infrastructure space, they're primary targets for attacks. So it's critically important to secure these AI algorithms, secure the robotic platforms that are all going to be they're all acquiring data, and we've got to keep that data protected. We've got to keep it secure. It's going to require constant vigilance and constant innovation to be able to effectively do that. And again, that also ties back to, I know earlier we mentioned just like the supply chain security, which again, I think is still increasingly important to just ensure the integrity of these components that are being used in these, autonomous systems and robotic devices. So whether that's semiconductor sensors, all of those things remain, so critical with just these increasing concerns over any foreign dependencies.
Well, and it's funny because people are like, oh, well, my, rotor blades aren't beaming information back to X country. Well, if that's where you're getting your blades from, or let's just say your batteries, hypothetically speaking, and they turn off the spigot, that's a problem for you and for the rest of us. So this is why supply chain security is so critical. It doesn't matter what the part is and what it's doing. If it's something that's important to your autonomous vehicle, it's something that maybe we should be looking at making here. So moving on, look, as we think about AI, as we think about these basically very complex computer systems, there's a lot of different ethical and bias concerns, I think, that arise from some of these systems. Walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, for sure. So, there's certainly an algorithmic bias. So just the risk of biased decision making by AI driven autonomous systems, it remains a pressing issue, particularly in areas like law enforcement, healthcare, defense. Like again, it's still considered a really pressing issue. And then again, going into even just like the transparency and accountability. So being able to actually determine the liability in cases of autonomous system failures or accidents, it's going to continue to be a legal gray area. So again, I think we'll see some more focus on that in 2025 too, with just the transparency, the accountability, and how these the ethical bias concerns are handled.
Well, and all of these things, of course, dovetail into public acceptance. And I think that's something that across the board we need to continue working on. While it was super fun to be on Fox News to talk about like the New Jersey drone thing, what it really hurt my heart a lot was the fact that all people were talking about was that and just thinking negatively about drones. That's just one example. That erodes public trust, right? Whether those were drones or not. It took, the industry in some respects took a hit because of that. As you look at public trust and acceptance going forward into 2025, what are some things that jump out at you, Lacey?
Yeah. So again, I mean, that's, it's a huge priority for the new administration, is just regaining some of that public trust. And it does come with, certainly comes with the transparency like we talked about. But, in the autonomous space, the public certainly there's a number of safety concerns. We've seen, especially recently, a lot of these high profile incidents involving, autonomous vehicles, aircraft, drones, and those types of things as they happen can really, erode public trust, and it can sometimes slow that adoption of these types of technologies too. So I think it's, going into the year, it's just critically important to, continue to, for the government to continue to be transparent about those things, gain that public trust, and all these things. Like, again, we've heard so many interesting stories this week about these autonomous vehicles and the incredible capabilities and all the great things that they're doing. That most of the public doesn't always hear about. So I hope this year that we get to tell more of those stories and share those with everyone as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. The drones for good stories are the things that need to be on the Discovery Channel, right? Like that's my dream job, but I don't know if I'll ever get it. But Lacey, as you also kind of think about some of the things that affect the public, we mentioned safety, we mentioned transparency, reliability, privacy. Privacy is one of those things. People, why are they worried about drones? Well, they're worried because of everything they hear about Ukraine and what's happening in Israel and with the Hamas conflict. But they also are worried from a privacy standpoint. And that data governance is becoming increasingly important. I know that's a really big part of what Carahsoft offers in terms of some of your vendor partners, cloud security, how to manage that data in a safe way. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so these, autonomous systems, I mean, they rely on, vast data sets for training, real-time operations, and it certainly does raise a lot of questions just around the data privacy and the ethical use of personal information. And you're right. One of the things that, as a company we focus on, we do a lot with, we've got a very robust cybersecurity offering. We've also got a very robust secure cloud offering as well. So when you're collecting that amount of data, it's, hey, where is it going back to? Where is it being stored?
Right.
We work with all the major CSPs. And have a number of secure cloud offerings and data storage offerings as well to, again, help the government give provide that assurance that, hey, the data that's being collected in these drones, it's secure, it's protected, it's being ethically used and all of those things.
Well, as I think also about some of the other issues out there, let's just pick the easy topic of geopolitical tensions. That also ties into the requirement to maybe upgrade your system or change your system. And so this idea of interoperability, and cross-domain collaboration is going to continue, I think, to raise its head across 2025. But it's not always easy, Lacey, for startups, even for big companies, to make some of the changes that are required by policy or law when it comes to technology. How do you see budget constraints playing into the next couple of months?
Yeah, so there certainly might be some budget constraints, just as there are some shifts in the economy and shifting in national priorities. So it could limit the funding for some of these autonomous projects, specifically in the non-defense sectors. But autonomous technologies are increasingly viewed as strategic assets. Again, you've heard it this week too, Dawn. I feel like there's been a ton of discussion around autonomous technologies and how those are evolving, how we're innovating, and how those are being used. But I will say the government, I think, is sometimes this won't come as a shock to anyone. They're usually a couple steps behind on actually implementing and integrating and using those. So I think, as priorities change this year and shift, like, we're going to see some of those things getting implemented and getting used, and again, becoming a more important part of the mission.
Well, as you said, I think we heard about Replicator last year. Some money was put against that. Autonomy and drones, big topic, and is going to continue to be a topic. Walk us through what we're seeing here on this slide, Lacey.
Yeah, of course. So this slide, again, it's a little bit of an eye chart with a lot of words, but a number of things that I think we're going to see. Again, there's a significant amount of funding in the budget that is allocated towards robotics and autonomy and technology. This funding is typically going to, it's going to fuel investments in AI. It's going to fuel investments in just focusing on developing these capabilities, with real-time object detection, adaptive learning. And I think, again, all of these things are just a great way to help strengthen the partnerships between the DoD, the technology innovators, and just accelerate the deployment timelines to boost some of this operational efficiency.
Well, and to foot stomp the fact that the DoD doesn't make stuff, right? They kind of break stuff. And so they're looking to industry to make these things for them. So some really good opportunities, I think, coming up over the next year, including Replicator and more to follow on that. But also on the FAA side, we heard a $4.4 million announcement from them looking at drone research, education and training grants. So how can that kind of a federal initiative support different groups, like, for example, public safety, who many of whom are operating at budgets well less than $20,000? How can this funding help some of these sectors?
Yeah, I mean, these, it's always so exciting to hear when, some of these grant programs become available, especially for these public safety agencies that are able to take advantage of this to get new technologies into their organizations. I was talking with one of our friends this morning, who's in the law enforcement space, and was talking about their agency working on, finally getting to the point of working on implementing a drone program, which is, incredible. And it's challenging. It's hard for these agencies with small budgets. So this federal grant funding it's huge. And I think the biggest things are, using this funding so that agencies can actually, expand their technology efforts. They can get new technology and they can get it integrated. And see how that's going to work, and again, continue to make it part of their mission, and get access to something they maybe wouldn't have had initially. Again, it makes a huge impact to them as well, and just continues to get those innovative technologies and that new technology into agencies across the U.S.
entire show just on grants. In fact, I think at
Mhm.
some point I did. I had Dr. Renee Welsh from at the time she was had her own business, Drone Grantology, talking about all of this stuff. But the grant money, it's out there. It's a matter of finding it. That's something Carahsoft can help you with. And by the way, everybody, Law Tech Connect 2025, 19 May in Houston, Texas, co-located with Exponential. We are going to have our very first panel of the day. Is going to feature a Carahsoft rep amongst other folks to talk about the funding opportunities across the federal government. So you don't want to miss that. Registration page is already live, so go ahead and check that out. And hopefully y'all join us. Carahsoft is sponsoring another Scholars Program this year. Super excited and appreciative for that. But at, with regards to some other opportunities, I think, Lacey, wouldn't you agree we're going to see some training and certification opportunities, maybe resource sharing, regional hubs, things like this? What in kind of the spectrum of things, kind of at the grant level and that federal money that might trickle down, what might we expect to see?
Yeah, definitely going to see, some standardized training and certification programs that are federally backed. And really the goal of that is just to ensure consistency in these drone operations across agencies at the federal level and the state and local level. And it reduces the need for these agencies to each go through the process of developing their own programs and their own training content so we can help, I think we'll see some standardization around that. um, you know, training partnerships. So agencies being able to partner with these academic institutions or partner with technology providers that can offer some type of, subsidized training or simulation and environments for these various use cases. Um, we'll definitely see some focus on training throughout the year. And then that kind of goes hand in hand too with the resource sharing. So getting these, or establishing these like regional drone hubs so that multiple agencies can share drones, they can share their operational expertise, they can maximize their limited resources and just learn from one another on how to best, optimize their program. Um, there's also some discussions about just some, federal equipment loan initiatives and again, giving, the federal government helping give the ability to smaller departments to temporarily access some of their advanced drone technology during emergencies or during special operations and again, figure out how it's going to fit into their organization.
No, that's excellent. I know, as I look back on 2024, there were, the Dallas Key site really stands out in terms of an operational evaluation. Now, they were sharing airspace. They weren't necessarily sharing equipment, but they were absolutely sharing data amongst their different systems. And I feel like we're going to see a lot more of these pilot projects because the FAA gave, that green light in terms of, hey, this isn't just for Dallas, this is national. And I feel like we're going to see a lot more of that, Lacey. So that's super exciting, and hopefully coming to a city or a town near you. Um, let's talk a little bit about the replicator program. I mean, I think we hit that, but everybody's very interested in DoD and kind of what's happening there. And we saw some money coming out. You've been involved in some other DoD focused programs like the Leidos CHS-6 contract and things like this over the last year. Do you project that 2025 is going to continue to be a big year in the DoD for uncrewed systems?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm glad you brought up the CHS-6 contract. So if anyone's not familiar with that, it's the Common Hardware Systems contract. It's primed by Leidos. Carahsoft is one of their distribution partners on that contract. And this newest iteration of the contract that was awarded last year includes drone technology within the scope of that contract. So it's primarily led by the Army. There's other, DoD agencies that are able to use it as well. But again, it's a, funded contract that provides, hardware technology of various types across the Department of Defense. So it's really exciting to see that, drones were a part of that scope and added to that as well. And again, I know I won't mention which ones at this point, but we're starting to see that as a trend in some of these other procurement vehicles as well, where drones are a new piece of it in the next iteration. So it's really exciting for all of us, exciting for the drone and autonomous systems industry as we're able to see that in some of these contracting vehicles and big programs as well.
No, that's excellent. I think, everybody's wondering what's going to happen when it comes to, the Trump administration as the new president takes the reins. We did see in the public arena that his son had invested in a drone company that caused quite a stir, I think, amongst people. Of course, we got Elon Musk out there with his own interest in electric vehicles and space. How looking into your crystal ball, what's Carahsoft doing to posture itself for what you all believe is going to happen under the Trump administration?
Yeah. So I think specifically what we're doing, again, we have this big focus on supporting these technology verticals that are constantly evolving, constantly innovating. Our company is innovating and evolving our strategy along with that as those technology areas evolve. We've got this big focus on selling, technology policy selling. So we've hosted a number of events recently that some of you may have been a part of, going over and understanding, relevant technology priorities and technology changes, especially those with the incoming Trump administration. So as a company, we're positioned very well to continue to support all of those initiatives. But again, I think the exciting thing for us is we're going to see a lot of the topics that we talked about today. There's still a ton of focus around AI, a ton of focus around cyber and supply chain, IT modernization. Like these are all going to continue to be, really well-funded priorities in the new administration. Lots of emphasis around these private and public partnerships and how small technologies can connect with government leaders. You mentioned Elon Musk. So the Doge, we're going to see, again, you guys are probably all familiar with it, a number of things that I think we'll see coming from that as, some of these priorities shift. But again, at the end of the day, this seems to favor, the technology manufacturers with the overall goal, again, of just achieving that efficiency and bringing in that new emerging technology into the government.
I think people are worried that folks are going to lose jobs, are going to be replaced by technology. But everything I've heard this week, Lacey, especially at Edge, is that we need a whole new workforce to be able to address the technology. In other words, you need experts in AI. AI isn't just going to replace people. You need people that can monitor the AI, right? You still need that human in the loop because AI is like everything else, whether it's a drone, whatever piece of technology you're talking about, oftentimes a tool. And, so having that workforce development, the training you mentioned, the grant money, I think it's going to be a big year. And so super exciting. So Lacey, what's next for you, for Carahsoft? I know we're finishing out this week strong at Edge and CES. I know your team is going to be at Geo Week in early February. I know, of course, Exponential is a very big show for you. IACP, your law enforcement effort, Soft Week, etc. Do you want to kind of walk us real quick through where we might expect to find you guys, and also how people can learn more about Carahsoft as we wrap up?
Yeah, of course. So again, you can find us lots of places. So like I said at the beginning, I always invite anyone to come visit us out in Reston, but we attend a number of events across the country. So the next, I think, biggest one coming up, the two are Geo Week, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. And then the AFCEA West conference, we'll have a large team there at AFCEA West out in San Diego towards the end of this month. And then, a couple of the others that Dawn mentioned, we've got a big law enforcement and public safety focus. You'll see us at IACP, IACP Tech, and all the major law enforcement, public safety events, a number of drone focused events from AUVSI Exponential, CUV Expo, I think is later in the year. Yeah, on the law enforcement side, we host our own law enforcement technology innovation summit. It is coming up in March. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will certainly see some posts about all of our upcoming events and where you can find us. But again, lots of things coming up in the drone space, the law enforcement, public safety space, cyber, AI, and you'll see us at a couple of these space events this year as well. It's been a really exciting week for us, kicking off the year here at Edge this week. And again, it's always an exciting and fun week, and a great way to start the year.
It's an exhausting way to start the year.
It is.
I'm gonna, after the holidays and then right into Vegas to kick off the new year. It's always a big sprint, but super excited about the prospects of this year. This 2025 look ahead has been spectacular, Lacey. Thank you so much for your expertise, your insights. Really looking forward to seeing hopefully a lot of this come to fruition on a positive note. And of course, to continuing to work with you and Carahsoft down the road. So thank you everybody for watching. And Lacey, once again, how can people reach you? You said LinkedIn, but how else?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. My phone number and email should be on there as well. It's probably the best and fastest way to connect with me. My email is also lacey.wean@carahsoft.com. So would love to connect with all of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. We are out here.